On the Couch is brought to you by VOP Online Radio. The voice you remember.
You are currently on the couch. Welcome back. It's Thursday, 7 o'clock. Good to have you all in the studio. In the studio this week, I have Byron. Welcome, Byron.
Good evening, everybody. It's good to be back, as always, on the other side of the table. It's the best place to be. No pressure, no stress, and just good conversation and a good time.
I feel like you swapped the breakfast show for On the Couch because you've been here. Is it 2 out of 3 now?
More like 3 out of 3.
Okay, yeah, just because we enjoy having you on the couch.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
So with us is someone who returned from her sick bed last week. She was unfortunately not able to join us because she was not feeling 100%. And she's back.
Yay!
Welcome back,
Hi,
Tracy.
thank you.
And then this week we have one member of the couch missing as well. Ashwin, unfortunately, wasn't able to join us
Aww.
Duty calls, eh?
Yeah, he's a pastor, so he has things that he has to see to, not things, but duties he has and responsibilities. But yeah, we could have a good discussion today. We'll make the best of it, and you guys are always the A team that is in the studio today.
Sure. A flattery, I tell you.
So sweet.
You have to make you smile. It's nice to see you guys smile. Like when you smile, I smile, everybody feels a bit better. Yeah. So this week we're continuing with stress and anxiety. So this is part 2. Last week we had part 1. If you missed last week's show, don't worry. You can log on to YouTube, VOP Ministries.
Let me help you there. It's kind of VOP Media.
I always forget the media.
Ministries.
I always forget the media. Yeah, so you can go into YouTube, VOP Media Ministries.
There we go.
And you'll be able to listen to our previous shows. There's been 2 so far. And yeah, after the show though, don't listen to it now. First wait for the show to end. And then you can go into YouTube and listen to the previous stress and anxiety show. But before we go deeper into this topic of stress and anxiety, let's start with a prayer. Dear Father in heaven, we come to you tonight with grateful hearts. Grateful for family, for loved ones. Grateful for this opportunity that we have this evening to speak to the listeners about stress and anxiety. Be with us as we sit in the studio, take control of our minds, our mouths. So whatever we say, it's by your design. This is my prayer in your holy name. Amen.
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 So guys, let's have a quick recap. What do you remember about stress and anxiety that we discussed last week? Anything, any highlights?
The fight or flight aspect, I don't know why that's the first thing that came to mind about last week's show.
Yeah.
How everyone deals with it differently.
Yeah. And stress is like your body's reaction in terms of, I'm going to die. That is like to wake you up and fight or flight.
Right.
Yeah. Anything else?
Well, I have to say that the Jonah story kind of kept my attention because it's actually encouraging, funny enough, encouraging to hear that everybody, even those characters that we sometimes or most of the time or aspire to be and look up to, also suffered and dealt and gone through similar
Yeah.
situations, and we can say, yeah, okay, a Bible character in his own way has dealt with stress and anxiety and the fight or flight, as you say,
Yeah.
Tracy.
I feel like for me
Yeah.
personally, I sometimes think that Bible characters weren't human. They were special people. But it just shows you that they were normal, just like
Ordinary people.
like you and I, just living in another time. So if God could use them, He could use us too. All we need is a willing heart.
Willing
A
heart.
willing heart.
Yeah.
Why I like the Jonah story is also because a lot of the time when we feel like we're being led one direction, we sort of want to run the opposite.
Yep.
And it's reassuring to know that end of the day, it's always in your best interest to follow that little voice.
Yeah. And then, of course, the anxiety part we also dealt with. I told you guys a little story of my anxiety inducing situation. And I got a few messages from the listeners asking me, is my car fine now? Did you get it registered? Are you really sorted? And wow, what a story. So yeah, thank you to all the listeners for reaching out. So I really enjoy the interacting with you. And I really love reading your messages that you do send us. So keep those messages coming, the feedback, the messages of encouragement. Yeah, we really enjoy that. It really, gives us that extra hop in our step
That's what keeps us going.
when we hear from you.
Listeners shouldn't be shy. I mean, there's multiple platforms that they can get in touch with us. There's Instagram, there's Facebook,
Yeah.
there's YouTube on the videos and the podcast that we do have on our channel. They can actually comment right there. And we will then bring that to the show and say, hey, so-and-so or user
Yeah.
has actually commented, and we appreciate that. So the more people or the more listeners that can do that, amazing.
Yeah.
We appreciate you.
I love the messages from other countries.
Most definitely. Yeah, that's always wow.
Yeah, like I got a message from, her name is Amanda. She's from the USA. She is from Michigan. And yeah, she sent me a nice message. I really enjoyed that. Then
Hi, Amanda.
the week before, we had Nicholas, also from the States. So the States are sending us, the people in the US are sending us some pretty nice, encouraging messages. So I would like to hear from other countries. Where are you listening from? Whether it be New Zealand, Australia, London.
Canada,
Yeah, all of you. Please send us your messages.
Ukraine, Russia.
Yeah, all of them. Really, we'd love to hear from you.
So on that note, Lance, what do you have for us this evening?
Well, I listened to a couple of conversations. I did some more research because stress and anxiety is more interesting than I thought. And stress affects all of us sometime in our lives. Because if stress doesn't affect you, you're not living. You can't live a stress-free life. That means you're not living. So just some stats I got that I heard in the week is that 65-year-olds, so this is generally people that is retired, right? And they lived a long life working,
Living their best lives.
dealing with, now they're living their best lives after they
Yeah.
retired. But the journey that they took to get there, dealing with the job stress, the kid stress, the husband or wife stress, like family stress,
Church stress,
the in-laws stress.
responsibilities.
Yeah. So they compared people in that stage of their lives, 65 and up, and then people starting their like adult lives. They have a family, they have a wife, they have a husband. So the young adults are 4 times as stressed as the 65-year-olds.
That's hectic.
It's not surprising, though.
It's not surprising. I didn't expect it to be 4 times. I knew they were more stressed because just the stage of their life. But yeah, that's a lot of stress.
You see, I honestly, this is my opinion, and anybody can challenge me on this. It's very simple. I do believe that because times have changed so drastically, and the era we live in, the stability that there was back in the day is not what we have today. There's so much more happening, so much more of the time, and the ability to walk down the street with your phone in your hand, or if they've had phones back then, or your wallet, or leave your car open. We don't have that right now. It's just an example. Whereas
Yeah.
today, you need to make sure that your phone's in your pocket or in your bag. You need to be alert and hypervigilant because anything can happen.
So they lived in a different time. This
Different
is what you're
time,
saying.
different era.
Society has different demands.
Exactly. That alone is a stressor, if you will. You
Yeah.
know, being able to walk freely versus not being able to walk as freely
Yeah.
because you are hypervigilant. Going to your local spaza shop, for
Yeah.
example, knowing that you have to pass, let's say, a highly drug-infested area or gangs along the way,
Yeah.
or the dogs that you know are going to chase you, whatever may be the case,
Yeah.
whatever your stressor is,
Yeah.
that is our current reality.
Yeah.
These things have always been around, but it seems as though they've become so much more blatant and so much more in your face.
And I would definitely think that, or I feel that social media plays a big role in that as well.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
It's
Yeah.
so easy for us to see what everyone else is doing with their lives. It sort of puts.
Yeah, you feel like
sometimes a
you're
lot-
behind.
Yeah, you feel like
Yeah.
you're always playing catch up.
Like, you look at that. That's amazing. Yeah. So funny enough, so I listen to the radio a lot for the talk show part, just to pick up some tips, you know, how to improve my hosting, the radio being a host. So I heard a little snippet of one of our local radio stations.
Okay.
They have a little comedian, a comedian on there, and this comedian is on social media because there's a comedy show happening. I think, okay, never mind. But they were telling him, "Oh, we see that you start your morning with walks on the beach and then to the gym or breakfast, wherever." And then he was like, "Oh, you guys believe what you see on social media." So that's just like a testament to whatever you see on social media is not
Right.
actually true and happening. So that's like a bunch of pictures that he took beforehand, and he just posts one every morning, and people think, "Oh,
And yeah, we're stressing about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
like this guy's living his best life." But it's like pictures he took 1,000 of previously, and he just posts every morning to make people think, "Hey, this guy is on the beach walking his dogs. That's how he starts his day."
That's both disappointing and really reassuring at the same time.
But in reality, it's not that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing they said, yes, social, like we discussed now, society has placed demands, is that with age comes wisdom and life experience when you reach 65. And they were saying because of the amount of practice they had with all the stressful situations.
Tread lightly, Lance.
Yeah. No. This is all fact-based.
Oh, right, of course.
Yeah, this is purely got it from a study.
Sorry, I can't help it. It's just that some people, unfortunately, don't always age with wisdom.
And
But
gracefully.
that's why we say
Yeah.
generally. That's why we're generalizing here. We're not
Yeah.
usually pointing out one specific person or one specific group. We're just saying generally in this specific study, this is what they found.
Okay.
So yeah,
Carry on.
there's probably opposite sides of the spectrum as
Yeah.
well, but we're focusing on the middle part of the group, the ones
Alright.
that outperformed the highest
Yes.
numbers. Yeah, so they generally have more life experience. So they dealt with all the stresses of life, and so now they have better coping skills or coping mechanisms. So that's why they're less stressed. Whereas a young adult is starting this journey of life and the family and whatever. So it's new to them. So it's like you're doing something new. You're not that great at it, but with practice, you get better and better and better.
So would you then say they've, along their journey, discovered ways to cope with that stress and anxiety? Full stop? Or would they find mechanisms to deal with stress and anxiety for each situation? Because surely there needs to be levels of stress and anxiety.
Yeah, definitely.
Like severities, if you will.
But that would depend on the person because everybody's different and we deal with different triggers differently.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, with us dealing with different triggers
Yeah.
and dealing with it differently, how do you think would be the best way for one that is suffering or dealing with, even if they know it or not, As you said, everybody deals with stress and anxiety on their own level. What would then be the advice?
If I can interject here, I had a really nice conversation with someone not too long ago, a close friend of mine who deals with stress, anxiety, and what she does, what she found that helped for her is definitely journaling. She felt that was like a really big thing, but I'll talk more about that, or we can discuss it a bit later. And I actually have a little bit of a clip
Okay.
to play, just a short little recap, if you will, of the conversation that we had.
Okay, hi. So I am here with Anonymous, and she has gracefully agreed to take some time out of her day to have a little chat with me about her personal experiences with anxiety and stress and everything that comes with it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
Let's just jump in and start with your experience when you started experiencing anxiety, the severity of it, how bad it gets.
Wow. So that's a whole history. I've lived with anxiety for the longest time, as long as I can remember. Even as a child, I experienced anxiety. I didn't even know what it was. It was just me feeling all kinds of nervous, and I was constantly worried, and I'm a born overthinker, so I'll overanalyze anything and everything, and that comes with anxiety. I didn't know that I experienced anxiety until I was in my 20s, and I'd only actually started unpacking it and trying to find out what is going on, why am I like this, because I realized this isn't normal. Like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't feel like this on a daily basis. In my teens, I started experiencing panic attacks. Like, they would range from mild to quite severe. Anyone who knows a panic attack, you can't breathe. You feel like you can't breathe. You feel like your airways are closing up. You don't have a grasp on your own bodily functions. It's wild. People who don't experience it are like, how do you not know how to control your body? But when you're in such a state of panic, you actually can't think, which is scary, and that gets scary, and then that makes you panic a lot more, and then you can't breathe more, and
I feel like it's really hard. I feel like it's really hard to explain it to someone who's never experienced it before.
Yeah.
I know we've had many conversations, because you are a really close friend of mine, about how to deal with it, and there's many. It takes different forms. It's not like
it's difficult to talk to somebody who doesn't experience it because they don't understand it. So I've connected a lot with people who do experience anxiety disorder and know exactly what I'm talking about. It makes the conversations a lot easier. You open up a lot more, and you feel a connection with the person because they know what you are talking about. And as the saying goes, different strokes for different folks. The way I deal with my anxiety is not going to be the same way that you or whoever else deals with it.
Right.
So that was a little clip of Tracy and
Anonymous? Yes.
Yeah.
It was a really nice conversation. If I can just mention my own personal experience dealing with anxiety as of late.
Yeah.
There has been very stressful situations or flare-ups, if you will, and everyone deals with it differently. But for me, definitely, I feel like it's a mental game. Trying to snap yourself out of it and putting yourself into a positive headspace. It's really difficult, but if you know yourself and with Anonymous now, she journals, she exercises, she even mentioned surfing at some point in our conversation. So knowing yourself and doing things that will make yourself feel better, even though you don't feel like it, especially exercise. It's one of the things that I really don't feel like doing at the time, but that's one of the things that actually help.
Yeah, it's part of that's why I challenge the listeners to get out of your comfort zone, because I know it gives you that boost of dopamine in the brain, and that's the feel good.
And it gives you a sense of accomplishment as well.
Yeah, like I done that.
I have to say, it's difficult to deal. No, I wouldn't even say to deal. To understand a person that is going through an episode or dealing with it on a daily basis. I've had I would say, a privilege to be able to work with someone. One of our colleagues, they've dealt with and dealing with most likely stress and anxiety. And it's tough because as much as you want to help, you feel helpless, you know? Because as much as they also, as a person being under this crippling at times, if you could say, I don't even know how to phrase it correctly, but dealing with such a difficult and often depressing ailment, it's tough to be a support structure because sometimes talking just doesn't help.
Yeah.
And it's often pointless, especially if they don't want to talk and don't want to open up. Depression is also tough because sometimes the person themselves don't have a choice. They don't choose to be emo, as we would term it. They just wake up one morning and they feel a certain way, or they've had a decent day and there's a trigger of sorts, and now they need to deal with this heavy feeling, this fatigue, this tiredness, just want to be under the blankets all day in your room, dark spaces, or left alone, don't want to socialize, don't want to eat. You don't feel for life.
Yeah.
And often it's not a choice. It's just as things happen, unfortunately. And trying to be a support structure and assisting them in being able to find that release is very difficult.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes it's really difficult to open up to someone about you being anxious or being depressed, especially if the next person isn't open to it or that they don't leave that leeway, if you will, because I mean, sometimes some people are embarrassed about it. Some people just don't want to disclose that type of information. But actually telling someone makes it real to yourself as well. And I think that's like the first start of dealing with it.
Yeah, you feel lighter. You're getting it off your chest.
Exactly.
The more you speak about it,
So definitely the right support system, the right people around you.
Yeah.
You know, whoever that may be. Friends, family.
But in time, you will find out, especially if you're dealing with this for a long time, who those people actually are. And as cliche as it sounds, I'm going to use this very term, yes, cliche as it sounds, you need to pray about this. You really do need to pray about this. I know when I'm, wouldn't say depressed or going through some things, the last thing I want to hear personally is, let's just this is not something you need to pray about. Did you ask God? You know, I get daily reminders of, sometimes you think your burdens and your problems are too big for God to tackle. And you really don't want to hear, just pray about it. Oh, I'm praying for you, in that moment, in that sense of, I don't even want to call it helplessness, but in that sense of nothing else matters but what I'm feeling, You forget that praying about these things is a free and easy way to de-stress and to leave your burdens at God's feet. Why? Because He's that outlet that you need. Some people have the quiet time that assists them to actually relieve some of the stress and this tension. You have that ability with God just to speak with no judgment being passed because of what you're saying. You are able just to speak and let God know how you are without any judgment being passed.
And that's why I also feel like it's always being encouraged for you to do things for other people, to help them. So if you're not so focused on yourself all the time, chances are 9 out of 10 you'll see that your problems aren't as big as you think they are. It's just because you're thinking about it all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas then if you shift your focus in helping the next person, or even in your prayers, yes, it is good to pray for yourself, but God already knows what we need. You know, we don't need to tell him.
Lance was telling us something along the lines of, despite Ashley not being here, he's given us something or assisted us with something.
Yeah, he sent us a little something where stress and anxiety and people that have overcome it
Oh,
in the
let's listen
Bible.
to that.
Okay, let's take a listen.
When I think about stress and anxiety, what comes to mind is the fact that we tend to take the responsibility upon ourselves, especially being a perfectionist. I mean, in a way, I'm a control freak. There are certain parameters that I realize that I can't control everything in, but generally I would like to. And when it doesn't go my way, or when it's out of that realm, I tend to become anxious or start asking, where is this headed? Because ultimately that's where I want it to go. And maybe you feel the same way, listener, wherever you are in whatever situation you might be in. I don't know. Some people are just like go with the flow people. Others are, they have to have some control over it. But what happens also is when we give it to God, when we've given the situation to God, we have the tendency to want to take it back from him. So we've asked him, and then somehow we are like, oh, but I can do something about my situation. And we immediately start jumping into action. Instead of the first point of call being praying about it, asking for God for direction, and then asking God again, is this the way that I should go in? Or is this what I need to do? To get his approval. We don't like listening because we think that listening means inactivity or God not doing anything about the situation, and we end up making it worse and we become stressful. It's in the release that sometimes we gain the greatest perspective. And there was a quote that I got from someone this week that really touched me and that moved me to realize that I need to stop. I need to really review this part of my life. It said that stop stressing over things, people, and situations that you cannot control. Look around and see how absolutely amazing this world is. How beautiful your heart is and how little time you have to enjoy all of this. Simply enjoy your time, be in love with life, and be grateful for having everything that's beautiful in your life. And so there's a quote that lingered with me that said about Jesus when he was on this earth as well. He who healed the sick and cast out demons when he walked among men is the same mighty Redeemer today. And that struck me because it's not some removed God. And then it further goes to say faith comes by the word of God. Then grasp his promise. John 6 verse 37 says, the person that comes to me, I will in no wise cast out. I will not remove them from me. I will not answer them. I will answer them. Cast yourself at his feet and with a cry, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. And then it ends with this, you can never perish while you do this. Never. And that really stuck with me because God is not too far from our situation, and ever-present help in trouble. Psalm 46 verse 1. And so, yeah, the extent to which we even find people in the Bible finding themselves anxious, like David when he goes into battle, or like the greats that we mentioned last week, Jesus, He even had to be aware and be in tune with God, his Father, or through the Spirit, to know when it was from his own, and from God, and from if it's coming from a good place. Because notice when Peter says, you can't go to the cross, you cannot die, he said, get behind me, Satan. And so he realized what God's will was for his life. And so maybe we need to also see, does our motivation align with God's will for doing what we're doing that's causing us anxiety? And if God has allowed the situation, then surely he will be the provider of it. Matthew 6 verse 33 says, if you seek his kingdom first, everything will be added. But then after that, it says that just look at the sparrow. Why do you stress about your life? Why do you worry? Do I not care for the sparrow? Do I not provide? It's that kind of reminder that humbles us and brings us to the point where we just have to keep relying on God. And I think that's where the point of it. The anxiety should drive us to a greater reliance on God and find us at his feet, in that surrender. Sometimes I try to become calm when I'm worried or anxious, taking a step out of the situation, removing myself, almost like you're in this busy city called Cape Town, and when you get to the top of Signal Hill or Table Mountain and you overlook it and you're like, wow, almost everything is okay. You don't even remember that you have problems and issues in your life or challenges. And I think it's that when we remove ourselves and just look from an outside perspective, become calm somewhere, maybe along the ocean, hearing the waves. What is your place? What is your special place where you find tranquility? Wouldn't you like to let us know? Dear listener, I think when we find our serenity, we're able to grasp our focus to what's really important and get calm and get perspective. So what's the place that gives you perspective? What's the situation that you put yourself in to find clarity? And why I say situation, because sometimes it is going with a friend somewhere, watching a movie, I don't know. Some people it's taking a walk on the beach or playing sports with other people. Maybe you're doing it by yourself. Those are all just forms of release. Sometimes we can't afford it, but to become still and just sit on the grass, maybe have your Bible with you, maybe it's music that speaks to you, and just take time to be. Some people are so busy or moving all the time that kind of gives them fulfillment, which stresses you as well, but you don't really want to deal with everything, so it's an escapism. So some escapisms are really bad because you never end up dealing with yourself or your problem or your issue. But God has given us some verses that help us, that give us this clarity as well. Isaiah 41 verse 10 says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed or fearful. I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Even David in Psalm 94 verse 19 says, "When anxiety was great within me, your consolation brought me joy." Psalm 138 verse 8, "The Lord will vindicate me. Your love, Lord, endures forever. Do not abandon the works of your hands." And that talks to even a situation where people are jealous, or a colleague perhaps, or someone who's not in it for your good, who's a friend, but actually you thought they were your friend, and now they placed you in a bad situation. And those are the words that appeal to you, because it says, vindicate me, God. Work on my behalf, fight for me, because I cannot do this on my own. And so God promises to be present. The answers don't always appear instantaneously, but sometimes through the process of what you're going through, the reliance, the everyday. Sometimes it takes a few months to work out, but God brings it to a point. And we need to trust Him to give us the peace that we need. And that's why John chapter 14, verse 27 offers us those beautiful words to say, peace I give you, my peace I leave with you, not as the world does. Do not let your heart be troubled or afraid. So He gives us peace. He gives it through His presence. Maybe take time to just pause in His presence. And I hope that, dear listener, this will encourage you.
In the little insert that the pastor sent us, he was talking about perfection and how he wants things to be perfect. If I think of myself, I have that same issue with wanting things to be perfect before people see it or before I put it out. The question sometimes I have to myself is, do I know what perfection is? If I have perfection, will I know?
I have to agree with you. I don't think, especially when you're in a situation or when you striving for this thing,
Yeah.
oftentimes you pass the mark you set for yourself, but you don't even know because you're more concerned of what's wrong.
Yeah.
You never take a step back and look, but this is it, you know?
And you're stressing yourself out,
Exactly.
chasing this perfection, but
Chasing the perfection.
overthinking and be like, I could change this, I could change that, but it's fine the way it is.
A quick one, 1
Yes.
minute. I was driving my mother's car the other day and I was like, I want something like this. But I was like, I have time. Why am I stressing? It took maybe 20 years, maybe 30 years to acquire such a beautiful vehicle. I'm just starting out. So how can I want to strive for something that I have time for?
Yeah.
You get me?
Yeah.
So I don't have to put any stress because with time comes that.
And things have changed so much now. Just don't be so hard on yourselves.
Yeah.
You know, not
Yeah.
things never go according to plan.
So, just to recap on stress and anxiety, just a quick little study I found about stress, that no stress is not the answer. So if you're thinking, I want a stress-free life, no, it doesn't work that way.
Why?
You need stress in your life. So there's a link between stress and aging. Overstress, you age faster. No stress, you age faster. So you need that middle ground.
That's interesting.
So there was a study done, just quickly in conclusion, there was a study done with people that is retired. No stress at all. And then they had them help out or volunteer at the underprivileged school where the learners are struggling. So no stress, they go to a school, learners are struggling. Now they have the stress and pressure of helping these learners because they don't have food to eat and all of these things. So all of this added stress on them.
Okay.
And then they studied their brains before and after. And after, they saw that, especially in males, they observed the hippocampus. So this is the part of the brain that plays a major role in learning and memory. So they could see the growth in the hippocampus, especially of men.
Okay.
Who added a little bit of stress, that manageable stress in your life.
You
So
need to Google that. Where's that found?
yeah, no stress, deep in the brain. No stress is not the answer. A little bit of manageable stress is the answer. So to recap what we've discussed over the past 2 episodes of stress and anxiety, we all experience stress in our lives, sometime or the other. We can't avoid it. It's part of life. No stress, you're not living. So you need that little bit of stress. But there are things you can do to alleviate the overwhelming feeling of stress and help you cope.
Coping mechanisms. Let's go.
Yeah. So limit your caffeine and alcohol use. And then sleep is very important.
Say it again. Let us hear loud and clear.
Let me say that one more time. Sleep. So not 5 hours, 8 hours of sleep.
8 hours of sleep.
No, not going to happen.
Very few, I'll be honest, very few of the population today actually get a proper 8 hour, that's a proper 8 hour of deep sleep.
Yeah.
Not just close my eyes and I'm awake, like actual deep sleep.
If I'm honest, I get about 4.5 to 5 hours of sleep a night. That is me every night.
Also, those people working from home, do you ever switch off?
Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah.
Next one.
Next one is regular exercise. It's very important.
That's
Regular
tough.
exercise.
That's tough if you have a rat race kind of life.
Yeah. But exercise helps you cope with that rat race.
That's something I'm struggling with. Just to find the time, basically.
And then if you don't have time for exercise, you're going to need a hobby to help you cope, just to escape life's
Yes.
daily, like the daily rat race. You need a hobby to take your mind away and for you to unwind and relax. And activities that bring you joy. So painting,
Journaling.
photography.
Fishing.
Yeah, that too.
Oh, fishing's so boring.
Some.
And then like Anonymous did, she kept a journal of her feelings and things that triggers
I think for the females,
that would work.
it would work,
I
definitely.
think some males too don't count out.
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
I'm
don't
just-
cut them out.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, and then breathing. Breathing is very important. Breathing is very important. And then speaking to friends, family, and loved ones, people you trust.
That's a big one.
Yeah. And then, meditation, 15 minutes with God.
And we are out of time? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
We really enjoyed this session of stress and anxiety. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
We'll see you next week.
God bless. And remember,
Don't forget to breathe.
you are God's favorite child.
If you've been blessed by this broadcast, please like, subscribe, and follow VOP Online Radio, the voice